Today we're cutting up Ariat 224's hybrid boot that's kind of a mix between a Cowboy boot and a Chelsea boot, and comparing them to the only other boot that's even remotely similar that we've cut up to this point, which is the R.M. Williams $500 boot. So we got a pretty interesting September coming up. We're gonna finish up the white sneaker series. We got 3 videos left with 3 of the big white sneaker brands out there. And then we'll do 1 video, the finale, and kind of go through all of them, choose the best one, my favorite, some other categories. And we got 1 video coming up that's gonna be really interesting. It's kind of a ridiculous video that I'm really excited for, but it's not finalized, so I can't really talk too much about it yet. And then starting late September and through October, the Makato series. So we're gonna compare the Red Wing to the Thorogood to the Danner, and maybe 1 or 2 extras in the Makato world, and kind of settle some of the debate and open them up and see what's going on inside of them and compare them. So that's kind of the forecast for the channel. But let's get back to these boots. And the reason I wanted to do these boots is because of how unique they are. They've got the lines of a Cowboy boot and kind of the paneling of a Cowboy boot, but they have this really similar silhouette to like a dressier Chelsea boot. So it's kind of a unique style, and they look really cool. I'll put some photos up here of people wearing them on their website. Ooh. And the reason we're comparing them to the Chelsea boot is you're gonna wear them in the same way. You know, you're not gonna work in either of these boots. They're more of a dressier boot, but not like a super dressy, like black tie event type boot. And they're built fairly similarly. They both have a leather sole. And so looking at the R.M. Williams at $500 and the Ariat 224 Jefferson's at $300, it'll give us kind of a scale to judge these off of for quality, so that you guys have the information you need to make an informed decision on whether you want these or not. So now let's go through the information on these boots. So the brand is Ariat, and the style is the Jefferson from their 224 collection, which is basically the more handmade, slightly more dressy versions of boots. And the color I got is the New Earth Suede. They retail for $278 before the discount, and they're made in Mexico. And this video is sponsored by Ariat, so if you want to save 15% off the Jefferson boots, use the code Anvil15 to save you that 15%. And also, they're running another sale at the same time on all their clearance items. So if you want to save 10% extra off their 224 clearance items, use the code extra224 at checkout to save you that extra 10%. So thanks for Ariat for sponsoring this video. So let's go through some of the information on these boots that we can kind of glean before we cut them in half, starting with the leather. So this leather comes from Charles F. Stead. It's a tannery in England that's pretty popular. Clark's has done some leather from them, and they're fairly popular in the foot game world. They're fairly popular in the footwear world. And they make really good leather. And this is a suede leather, not the suede from the cheaper split portion of the hide. It's a suede from that top portion, and they just flip it around. So the smooth grain section is on the inside, and the fuzzy flesh side is on the outside. So it's a higher quality suede, and technically it'd be a rough out leather, but they call it suede because it's got a suede texture. And this is good because it's stronger than typical cheap suede. It's gonna last a lot longer, and you just get a better leather overall. And this is cowhide, so it's a little bit thicker. It's about 5 to 6 ounces. It's thicker than you'd see like a calfskin, like you in the R.M. Williams or some of the white sneakers that we've been doing. So it's gonna be pretty hardy and long-lasting leather. This boot comes in a bunch of other colors. It comes in that bison leather that we reviewed in the Highlands, the 224 Highlands that we did previously. It also comes in the same suede, but a more tan, yellowish color. And I'll add some photos throughout me talking about this. And the one thing I did notice is on the website, their photos are quite a bit different than what the boots look like in real life. So like these are a lot more brown, and in the photos it's more green, and the other color of suede is a lot more kind of yellowish, but in real life they're more tan. And if you want to see what the tan ones look like in real life, there's a video by the Style OG's video, and he wears them and kind of shows you some different angles of them, so you can kind of see what you're gonna get because the photos are a little bit off. And he shows you how you can wear them and make them look freaking good. And I also learned from his video where the name Ariat came from. Did you know that Ariat, at least from what he said, maybe this is wrong too, but from what he said, the name Ariat came from the horse Secretariat. So that was kind of interesting that I didn't know that, even though I've been working with this company for like 4 months. The next thing, and maybe the most noticeable thing about this shoe that stands out the most is this zipper. So 99% of the time I hate zippers on boots. I just don't like them. But with this, it makes sense because with this style of boot, you either need a gusset, like in a Chelsea boot, or you need a zipper. To get that slim silhouette that hugs your foot or your ankle, you can't really get away with pulling it on in the same way you would with a cowboy boot or some work boots, because you're wanting this to fit around your ankle really tight. So you need a zipper or you need a gusset. Both have their pros and cons. The next thing that I thought was really interesting is this outsole. There's a lot going on the outsole. So it's a leather outsole, and I assume it's butyl treated like their other leather outsoles, but it's got this patch of rubber that's been roughed up so it doesn't slip, and it's got a little bit more grip. And there's sewing around here, and I assume the sewing's to help hold that on. It's also got some brass nails to hold it on. And one thing that I wish that these boots did better was channel the stitching. Like in these RM Williams, there's a channel that stitching sits in. It's not much of a channel, but it's still a channel so that you're not walking on the stitches at first, and you're not gonna wear through them as prematurely as if it was channeled in. But after you wear them for a day, they're gonna be pushed down pretty well, and it's not gonna make that big of a difference. And lastly, it's 360-degree Goodyear welted. So this stitch goes all the way around the boot, which you see in some boots, you don't see it in others. You know, these RM Williams don't have a 360 Goodyear welt. I kind of like the look of it personally, but it's worth noting. So that's kind of the preliminary information. That's kind of the breakdown of what it is and why it exists, I think. So now let's cut it in half and compare it to the RM Williams. All right, we got it cut in half, so let's see what's inside. So pretty interesting. I thought this was gonna be a more simple construction, kind of like the RM Williams, but it's actually more like the Highland, the Ariat 224 Highlands that we tore apart. So let's go through the layers, identify them and what they are, and then compare them to the RM Williams and talk about pros and cons and go from there. So starting with the outsole, like we talked about earlier, it's a leather outsole with the little chunk of rubber that's roughed up on the ball of your foot. And the heel, you've got the full leather heel stack with a little bit of rubber on the end there, kind of like how dress shoes are. Above that, you've got the cork layer. The cork's there to mold to the shape of your foot, to give you a more custom fit, to make it more comfortable for longer. Above that, we got 3 layers of compressed cardboard with the steel shank sandwiched in between. On top of that is the fiberboard, and it's not like the Texon fiberboard we've looked at previously in like a lot of the boots in this price range. It's a softer, more malleable fiberboard, and I'm assuming they put it in there so that this boots molds your foot faster and is more comfortable sooner. And then on top of that is the Poron, and Poron is a kind of a memory foam type of foam. It's a higher quality foam than just like a cheap foam that you see in cheap shoes. On top of that is the leather sock liner, I guess is technically what it would be. Moving up from there is the lining leather, and this is just a cow hide. It's nothing special. No one ever really puts high quality lining leather in their boots. For the counter, we've got a composite counter, and then up from there is just the upper leather we talked about earlier. Compared to the RM Williams, we've got a full leather outsole. The heel's a little bit different. It's still a full leather heel stack, but you've got a full cap of rubber. So it's gonna give you a little bit more traction than one that's half and half. Up from there, we just go to a layer of cork. Above that, it's a composite shank. And then the final layer is the insole, which is just a leather insole. So quite a bit different. I expected it to be more similar. Some of the pros and cons of each. The leather is more of a classic way of building a shoe or a boot. It's still gonna break into your foot, kind of like the fiberboard and cork's gonna do. It might last a little bit longer. You know, this is gonna take a few days to break in and be comfortable. This will be pretty comfortable right off the bat because of that foam and how soft that fiberboard is. And then as for the price difference, you know, the RM Williams are around $500. These are $278. So the biggest difference is that leather insole. I guess the question is it worth $200 to you to have a leather insole? And comparing them to the RM Williams isn't necessarily about comparing which one's better, but more just to compare a $500 boot to a $300 boot to see what you get for $200 less, what sacrifices are made, and if you're okay with those sacrifices. Because without cutting these open, you just hope that the inside's good enough and it's gonna last. But now by cutting them open, you guys can make an informed decision. I think they're good boots and I think they're gonna last a long time. Like these are built almost identically to the Highland boots that I tore apart and wore for 100 miles, and I probably worn them for another 100 or 200 miles, and they last really long, they're really comfortable, they're really well built. So just from that alone, I would say these are good boots, and then cutting them apart and comparing them, they're gonna last a long time. They're resolable. So if you like these, buy them. They're a really unique take on the classic Chelsea boot. You know, if you're trying to get something that's not exactly like everyone else is wearing, these are a really good option. So that kind of wraps up the Jefferson boot, and let me know what you guys think. Do you like this style? Do you think you could pull it off? Are you interested in buying these boots? And let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know what else you guys want to see. And thanks for everything you guys do. See ya. And this is, and this is cowhide, so it's a little bit thicker. Jeez.